I'm up in the Highlands of Scotland, where I come every year to visit my mum. As usual, I've come sort of mid-spring, April. So far, quite lucky with weather. It's only day 2, but it's looking like it's going to be sunny for at least a week, which I can't quite believe, or at least not rainy, which is the main thing. On this trip, we're just staying in my mum's village on the Black Isle. We did have a plan to go a little bit further afield, as we usually do, but she's having some health issues, and we decided to just kind of stay at home for this week, which is actually really, really nice. I like her village a lot, and there's loads of fantastic walking that can be done around here. There's actually a walk that I started to do several years ago along the coast near here, and I had to turn back because of the tides. You can only do it at low tide, and I've always wanted to do it again and do it properly. So I'm hoping that, fingers crossed, if I can find a day that has favourable weather and the tides are working as well, I might be able to finally do that walk. Right now the tides are not favourable. Low tide is 7 in the morning and 7 in the evening, which and high tide is kind of the middle of the day, so that's tricky for doing a long walk. But I think as the week goes on, it'll shift hopefully to something that I can do. I also have a plan for another kind of adventurous hike, which will be a whole day out by myself. I'll have to take public transport, do a hill climb, and the public transport up here is a bit spotty. It kind of depends on buses and trains lining up and things, and there's only 3 trains a day, and so I've kind of planned it out, and I'm hoping it's going to work. And I've decided to do a sort of separate mini vlog for that, so it'll be a sort of vlog within a vlog. If I manage to make that whole excursion work, I will do that as a self-contained video, which I'll try to edit while I'm up here. This rest of this stuff I'll probably edit when I get back to London. I've got more time. So yeah, it's getting a little bit later in the evening now, so I'm going to head back to the house for dinner. But I'm looking forward to showing you what else I get up to this week. My trip started at my local train station in South London. I took the train to Clapham and then changed onto a second train to Gatwick Airport. To reach the North Terminal at Gatwick, I had to take the monorail past a row of cherry trees in bloom. One of the things I always enjoy about my trips to Scotland is the transition from a busy London airport to the peacefulness of the Highlands. I love the change of pace and the sense of time slowing down a little bit. When I get off the plane at Inverness, the air always smells incredibly fresh compared to what I'm used to in the city, and it's usually several degrees colder as well. It was misty and rainy on the drive from the airport to the Black Isle, but the next morning was sunny and bright, and we headed out to do some shopping. We had plans to visit some local towns and villages, including Dingwall and Cromarty, to buy some supplies we needed for the week, and also just to browse craft shops and gift shops to see if anything caught our attention. As we drove towards Dingwall, the highest mountain in the east of Scotland, Ben Wyvis, was ahead of us with snow on the summit. Back at home, to take advantage of the sun, I headed out on an old favourite walking route that starts at my mum's house and ends up on a wooded hillside just over a mile away. I'm on my favourite local walk at the moment. It's a lovely walk to some really gorgeous woodlands. I've just done the hard bit, which is climbing up a hill, so now I'm quite close to the woodlands, and I'm hoping for some nice sort of bird song and wildflowers and things. They have a nice little board at the entrance to this forest where they tell you what kind of flowers and plants are in season. I seem to remember last year it was wood sorrel. There were lots of little white flowers around. It was really beautiful. And I'll just show you now after this car passes. I'll show you the view that's ahead of me right now. If this is an example of the roe deer scraping patches on the ground, but there's definitely a small hoof print there. Well, this is new since I was last here. Now I've climbed to the top of the hill within the woods. I'm sitting on this funny little staircase bit. It's very quiet. The air smells lovely, and there's just it's really peaceful, loads of birds. There was a red kite that was right above me just as I walked into the woods. There's not ferns out yet. I've been here in the summer when it's been full of ferns, but they are just starting. And yeah, I saw some wood sorrel, and as usual, just lovely moss and lichen, and really, really peaceful in these woods. I think I've only ever come across one other person when I've been walking here, so it's definitely one of my favourite places to come. I think this is Sitka spruce that's all around me right now, because I saw it in a botanic garden and I remember it had these sort of round shapes of bark. This little path is just outside the woods. I think I've walked it before, but it looks like at the moment it's full of daffodils, so I might walk it again on my way back. This little bit of path has been sort of carpeted with these pine needles. It's really, really soft. Well, I didn't see any celandine in the woods, but now that I've left the woods, there's some on the roadside here. Didn't see any primroses either, but This is still quite nice. After that I started to see primroses everywhere, but mostly in people's gardens. I also later found a whole bank of celandine outside the church near my mum's house. The walk back from the woods is extra nice because it's downhill all the way and you've got the sea view ahead of you. There in the distance is Shannonry Point, where people go to watch dolphins. Walking back through the village, I passed one of my favourite local gardens, which has a stone wall covered in flowers. The next day was a baking day because it was cold and cloudy. It was my first time making a double layer chocolate cake with chocolate buttercream icing. Later I walked down to the beach that's just minutes from the house. I found an interesting piece of bone that I managed to identify as a gull pelvis. I spent some time walking around the tiny harbour there, then I sat and watched the wading birds, listening to their sounds, and then I listened to more birdsong back in the village. The next day the weather improved again and I was back down enjoying the seashore. I took advantage of the quiet harbour to talk to the camera for a bit. The sun has been getting brighter and brighter all day, which is lovely. I've been having quite a quiet time so far on this trip. It's been really nice. I was really in need of a rest, so it was just what I kind of needed. I've been doing a little bit of cooking, a bit of baking, knitting. Today my mum and I went to a garden centre, got some new plants for her garden. Tomorrow I do have a more adventurous day planned. I've got my long hike that I've been sort of researching for a little while. It involves me taking a bus, then a train, then doing the hike and then the same back. So I'm really hoping it'll work out. I'm going to make a separate video just of that day excursion. So this video right now will come out after that one. So if you haven't seen that one, you can look at my channel. It should be the one before. The other thing we've been doing that's quite fun is we had originally intended this week to spend the week in a holiday cottage, we had to cancel, and my mum thought it would be good if we just attempted to spend that money that we got back from the Airbnb on some nice food, nice lunches out, and a bit of shopping. So we've been trying to do that. We've been struggling to spend it a little bit, but we did do some shopping today. So in a minute I'll show you what I've bought so far. After my big excursion tomorrow, I'm also hoping to do one other hike that'll be kind of longish. Hoping on Friday, in about 3 days' time, if the weather's okay, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to have to leave as early in the morning as I can to try and catch the low tide. There are some caves along the coast that I can reach if I can get to them. And obviously you don't want to risk getting cut off by the tide, so you have to kind of make sure it's safe to do. Last time I tried a few years ago, I was doing the walk in the opposite direction than I'm going to do this time, and I didn't want to risk doing that coastal bit at the end as the tide was coming in case I got stuck. So this time what I'm going to do is reverse the direction, look at that tricky part first, see if I can do it, and if I can, the rest of the hike will be fine. And if I can't, it should be obvious to me quite quickly that the tide's too high, at which point I'll adapt the route and I'll do probably the same bit I did before, which was lovely, but it's sort of up on the hill along the coast rather than down on the coastline itself. So yeah, there's different options I can do if I can't do the full thing and see the caves, but I'm really hoping I'll be able to do it. So here's what I've bought. I've got myself a jigsaw, 1,000-piece jigsaw of sky. I've got a couple of items that are going to be gifts for people, so I'm not going to show those. Some really nice hiking socks. These will probably be for my partner. They're really, really thick and cushiony on the sole, and they're merino wool. And some socks for me with foxes. Lots of really lovely cards. So I've stocked up on a few of those to give to people in the future. We also went to the garden centre, so I got some seeds for my garden, some twine, and for ages I had been looking for a bonsai dish because I've got a little bonsai pot but it doesn't have a dish, and this is just the right colour. I've got myself a mug. I don't really need mugs, but I just really like this one and I thought it would be just a nice thing to have. I've got some locally made soap, which smells really good. It's lemongrass, rosemary and lavender. I've got a dog toy for my friend's dog, and this little spoon, which apparently is a really good spoon for reaching and getting everything out of the jar. I've also got this lovely wooden leaf, and I got a little bag to kind of, if I end up giving this as a gift, I'll probably give those together. And the final item, this is I'm going to use it as a Christmas tree decoration with a deer. And that's kind of in memory of the lovely deer that I met on my hike on Little Witheth. I've got a free hour or two, so I'm about to do a little bit of this lovely walk near my mum's house. You walk along an abandoned railway line, so there's no railway track still there, just the sort of tunnel of vegetation where the railway used to be. Although I've done this walk many times, I've just spotted a little path off to the side that I've never explored before. I'm not sure if it's sort of an official route or anything, but it looks like people have gone up here, so I'm just going to have a little look. Very steep climb up, but it's quite nice up here. It's quite exciting to have discovered this new bit of woodland that I didn't know was here, or that I didn't know was accessible. Lovely little stream to the right. I've seen this stream previously. It sort of comes down beside the railway line walk, but I've never been up to this high point of it. So I'm just sitting down, surrounded by, I think, beech trees, not sure, with a whole wall of wild garlic opposite me. I'll show you. That was really good. When I emerged on top of the hill, I could hear a road nearby, and it suddenly occurred to me that I realised I was very close to my favourite bit of woodland that I walked in on the first day. I could have walked over there in a couple of minutes from where I emerged, so that's really cool to know that there's this really lovely route there that I didn't know about before. I didn't pop in because I might go back later on the trip when I've got a bit more time, but a really lovely find, this path. I headed back home to get an early night ahead of the early morning beach hike that I was planning for the next day. I was going to leave at 8 a.m. when the tide was at its lowest to try to walk around the headlands before it came in too far. At 8 a.m. it was sunny but windy and cold. It was about 4 or 5 degrees. I started by walking to the village of Rosemarkie, past a field full of lambs and several school children who were walking between the villages to start the school day. I headed down towards the beach, past the Crofters Cafe where I would end my walk and meet my mum for lunch. The area has distinctive reddish sand which was glowing in the sun. So I'm walking along Rosemarkie Beach now. When I was first told about this coastal walk where you can see some caves, I was told you had to do it at low tide, but I was never told the exact nature of the tide issue, or whether there's a risk that you could get trapped, or whether it's just that I think the issue is that down at the end of this beach that I'm just coming up to, there's a bit that's just impassable at high tide. And I think after that, it's all fine. So yeah, if you were doing the walk the other way around, which I was doing last time, if you'd come to that part too late, you would have to go all the way back. I think that's what the issue is. And so I'm hoping now, I'm just getting to the corner, and I've looked at a map to see what the sticking point might be. I think I'm coming up to it now, so fingers crossed. I'm going to keep walking and see if I can get round. Right, I'm almost at the caves. This is quite exciting because I've made it, and as far as I can tell, this is the last point where you'd have an issue with the tides. After that, I'll be fine to do the rest of the loop. It's been nice so far, so sunny, and I've seen a couple of dog walkers just go by, so I'm pretty sure that they've been able to walk all the way around. The problem with coastal walks is always that at a certain point you usually have to take a really steep path up out of it, but I haven't got to that bit just yet. Well, here it is. It's not a very deep cave. But very nice. According to the map, there's a couple more caves that I'm going to come to just before I turn off and go back inland. I'm pretty sure this bit here would be unpassable as well at high tide, so I'm really glad that I've made it early enough that I can walk through. Well, I've just rounded the last little bit of headland, and the app seemed to suggest there were some more caves. I can't see them immediately, and I'm very close to the path up inland, so I think I'm just going to press on and climb up, get the climb out of the way, and then enjoy a leisurely stroll back to Rasmarki. Before heading up the cliff, I took a moment to enjoy some of the rock formations and take a look at a mystery wooden object on the shore that seemed to be made of wooden beams bolted together. I can see the signpost for my turn off up ahead. I might get my poles out for the climb up because it is steep, and I know that because I've done it coming down. From the top I could see Shannonry Point again from the opposite direction than I'd seen it several days before. Two promontories jut out into the water there, creating a channel in between with very rich fishing opportunities for dolphins at low tide. People come from far and wide to watch them. I was heading through an area where I had remembered seeing lots of farm animals before. It didn't disappoint. 2 horses gazed out over the shimmering sea, and after I had also passed a pen full of ducks, there was a particularly cute surprise waiting for me at one point behind a metal gate. So a final little walk update now that I've reached the top of the climb I had to do. Climbed up that coastal path, and I remembered why I had found it so lovely last time. It was because there's just flowers all the way up. It's just really a lovely path to climb, even though it's incredibly steep. I just met the most adorable 2 tiny black lambs, and there were some ducks and sheep and horses. It was just really lovely. I was able to kind of get really close. So now all I've got to do is walk. This is the kind of slightly boring part of the route. I've got to walk a very quiet road, but a road all the way back to Resmarkie. There is a little, what's it called, Fairy Glen, little waterfall in the woods that I can walk past when I get back to Resmarkie. So that's another nice little bit before the end of the walk. But I've got to pick up the pace a little bit because I'm going to meet my mum for lunch. I will say that road walking after you've been walking on difficult rocky beach terrain is actually quite nice, especially if it's quiet. I've only passed 1 car so far. Right, this is where I turn off into the woods for a little bit of woods and waterfall. I've been so lucky with the weather today. The forecast said it was going to rain for an hour or 2, maybe just showers, but then I thought, well, the forecast hasn't been very reliable so far anyway, so why trust it now? And I'm glad I just did this walk anyway. It's kind of the clear day that I was hoping for my hill walk a couple of days ago, but when you come to Scotland you have to just do the best you can with the weather, and it's been nice to have it sunny today. So now I'm going to head into the woods and see the waterfall. Okay, now it's started to rain a little and it's actually hailing as well, but right at the end of my walk, and I'm in the woods, so it's actually kind of nice. Got my waterproof back on again though. I'd forgotten that there were actually 2 waterfalls here, so that was a nice surprise as I headed back into the village. The sun came out again as soon as I got into the village itself, so I filmed the waves at the beach for a while before buying myself a coffee at the Crofters. I had one last walk around my favourite hillside woods at the end of my trip and had a really nice bird encounter that I hadn't been expecting. I am such a nerd. When I arrived at the woods today, I could hear some woodpeckers pecking, and there was a really big Scots pine, and I could hear a really echoey pecking coming from it. And I spotted a few holes, and then I actually saw a tiny bit of movement inside one of the holes, so it was pecking from the inside. So I knew which hole it was in, and I decided I was just going to sit there with my phone camera trained on the hole until I saw the woodpecker. So I just sat very still and waited. It didn't take too long. I'm not sure how long I was sitting there, 5 minutes or so, but I eventually caught it flying out very briefly, but it was quite fun to try and see it. I was also excited to spot some wood stained blue-green by a fungus. I'd previously only ever seen this before in the videos of my favourite hiking YouTubers' adventure archives, so it was great to come across some myself. I also hit the absolute jackpot of lichen on one particular tree that I found. It was hard to film because of the wind, but I spent a long time taking photos and just marvelling at these amazing specimens. The day that I left started out sunny but turned rainy by the time my plane took off. As usual, I sat by the window to get some final looks at the Scottish landscapes as I flew home.